I'm joined today by Dave Hamilton, who is the co-host of the Mac Geek Gab podcast, in addition to being the president of Mac Observer over at macobserver.com. Dave, thanks for joining me.
Oh, man, thanks for having me. This is great. It's good to be here.
It's good to finally meet you in person, in video.
That's right.
I guess.
Yeah.
So last week, the big announcement, can't get away from it, the iPad. Let's start there. What are your thoughts?
As I'm seeing it, I'm thinking, you know, going into this, Apple was not a company on the ropes, right? They weren't depending on the next great product to save their bacon, right? They're doing just fine. So I thought, you know, this thing's really got to blow the world away in order to, really to be worth their while to release. Otherwise, wait a year. It doesn't matter. They're doing great. So as I'm watching, I'm thinking, I guess I was wrong. I mean, Apple, okay, fine. And so we'll fast forward to the end when Apple did something very uncharacteristic, right? They did two things uncharacteristic, although one they've done before, and that is they announced a product that they don't plan to ship for a while. But we saw that once before, and it worked out kind of okay for them, right? The other thing that they did was that they announced accessories for the device, right? Which was like, what the heck are they doing here? This is weird. And the first one was a case. It was like, oh, okay, so they wanted to have the first case in a cast of hundreds of thousands. Okay, fine, And then the second thing I saw was that keyboard stand, right? Where it's a keyboard and it's got a little dock connector on it and you pop the iPad into it. And when I saw that, I felt like I saw Apple's vision 3 years down the road, right? Or maybe 5 years, but probably not, 3 years down the road. Take the iPad as it is now, and it's sort of in this murky water between smartphone and laptop, right? Now, smartphone to me will never go away because we always want something in our pockets, right? And the iPad is not that. But we also want this laptop thing, but let's face it, they're sort of cumbersome. A laptop is not what I want in the living room, right? It's not what I want on an airplane. In fact, it's really not what I want anywhere, but it's the best we've got right now. Now, take the iPad. It's feature limited right now. It's locked down by the App Store. There's all these bad things about it. It's got a slow processor, at least compared to what we're used to in our laptops. It's not a laptop competitor, but not yet. Fast forward, you've got, Apple's dealt with whatever they need to deal with to make this App Store thing workable so that instead of having just their calendar on the device, they're going to let things like, say, BusyCal on it. And it's not going to be denied for, feature, where they say, we didn't let that app on because it duplicates functionalities. Well, yeah, no, it doesn't duplicate functionality. iCal stinks. BusyCal's better. This is different. So, but you fast forward and you've got a faster processor in this thing, and now, that is your laptop replacement. And I think Apple sees it that way. I really do. But they've got to kind of sneak it into the product line as they did, because they can't come out and say, hey, take your MacBook Pro, throw it away. This isn't quite the same as saying, don't worry, you don't need floppy disks anymore. Right, like they did with the iMac. They need to kind of, slowly introduce this thing. And I think that's where it will be in 3 years.
I agree with you. I mean, 2-3 years down the road, I think this is going to be a compelling device. I just wonder, though, the feeling I get is initially with this first model, the uptake's going to be a little slow. And I wonder if that's going to affect, blogging. Obviously, all of the blog and Gadget, Gizmodo, everybody's been on Team Apple for some time now. I'm just wondering what the public perception will be, the public fallout, if this first version isn't a huge hit out of the gate, if people aren't lined up on day one.
I think people will be lined up on day one. They let enough people touch it at that event that everybody that walked out of there said, I wasn't so sure about this thing until I had my hands on it. Right? I mean, it wasn't just Steve Jobs on stage saying this. It was reporters. It was trusted, industry pundits, all of them basically, chanting the same mantra. Once you get your hands on it, you'll understand. Right? I mean, it's like they were brainwashed, which, to be fair, they were. But that's okay. That's what Apple does. These people have been reporting long enough. They should know. They're somewhat immune to the RDF, right? So I think people will be lined up for it. I think there's going to be a lot of curiosity about it. I also think it's not necessarily aimed at us geeks, although we'll all get them. I think it really is kind of aimed at, mom and dad, our moms and dads, I'm a dad, but, I think it's aimed at our moms and dads as this cool kind of device that you can browse the web on, but is equally at home on the coffee table.
Now, of course, rumors about the tablet have existed for years and years and years. Rumors about an iPhone existed for years before the iPhone. Let's look ahead. The Apple news and rumor community never satisfied. Looking ahead, is there another hardware device? I mean, other than perhaps putting the guts of an Apple TV in a TV, there's not really anything else that's been lurking in the shadows that I can think of.
No, that's true. The TV really is the next one, I think, for Apple. And I think it'll come, but again, like everything else with Apple, I don't think it'll come in the way that we expect it to. But yeah, I don't really know. I mean, is there an Apple car, right? Is there a car that runs on Mac OS X coming someday? Could be. It certainly makes sense as an extension of this digital world, right? So, okay, maybe that's possible. Are we going to have Apple glasses someday that, have screens in them and do different things? Maybe. I don't know.
I just hope the car runs on OS X and not the iPhone OS, because if it's the iPhone OS, you can't run the air conditioning while you have the radio on.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's one thing. The inability to run multiple apps at once is something that Apple needs to fix.
I wanted to ask you, so how long has Mac Observer been around now? Quite some time.
11 years as of this past, actually this month, January. Yeah. So last month. That's right. Yeah.
And so in those 11 years, obviously there have been some ups and downs. I'm curious what your observations have been since this rebirth of Apple, the iPhone and iPod people coming into the mix versus the evangelists of the platform, say, 8-10 years ago.
Right. So it definitely has shifted from we're all in this together and it's going to take every one of us to make this platform survive mentality. Now, whether that was true or not, can be argued all day long. But that was the mentality to now Apple's going to exist no matter what we do, as a community, not just TMO, or any other individual site, but, Apple's going to exist and thrive no matter what we do. So yeah, it's been an interesting shift to see. The community has grown, but it's also shrunk in a way, right? The Apple loyal and the Apple faithful aren't quite. It's not the same definition that it was back in the early days.
Sure, I can remember even 5, 6, well, a little bit longer than that now, maybe 8 years ago. If you were in an airport or something and you saw someone else with a PowerBook, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
It was, you're one, we are of the same tribe kind of thing. And now it's just, you see an Apple product on every street corner. So it's
true.
It's quite a change. Let's talk a little bit about Mac Geek Gab, your podcast on Mac Observer. And I want to say, I think most people know about the Mac Observer, but I think one of the things that really sets the site apart has to be your feature content. I mean, this isn't just regurgitating the breaking news of the day,
sure,
like a lot of tech blogs.
Sure. Yeah, and we do our own, take on the news. Certainly we provide that. But you're right. We really do focus on having feature content from specific writers. We have a full-time feature writer on staff. That's John Martellero, and he knocks it out of the park, multiple times a week. He really has a good perspective on what he does. He doesn't do any news for us or anything like that. His main focus is features and reviews. So yeah, there's definitely a conscious effort to publish that. And then we have other contributors that add to that flame, and it does help set us apart. I really believe that. So yeah.
Very cool. And people can see you at Macworld this year, yes?
Yeah, that's right. So I'll be at Macworld Thursday. The 11th is the big day for me in terms of public appearances, although I'll be everywhere every day. But yeah, 30 minutes after the show floor opens, we're doing a live Mac Geek Gab podcast that John Braun and I'll do. He's my co-host with the show. We've been doing it almost 5 years now. And we'll be taking questions from the audience and kind of playing Stump the Geek. Normally on the show, we do questions that we've heard in advance and we just play. So we kind of, we at least know what we're going to hear and hopefully know the answer.
Sure.
We like to do the live thing sometimes because that's really, it puts us in our element. So we're doing that. Then I'm doing my Running Your Mac Lean, Clean, and Mean session in the afternoon. And then, of course, Thursday night is our big 7th annual Cirque de Mac party, where we when I say we, it's the Macworld All-Star Band will play a couple of sets of music, and it's a great time for everybody. And it's there'll be face painters there and caricaturists, and it's crazy.
Very cool, and I think it's going to be a great time even without Apple in attendance.
I agree. Yeah, the feeling I'm getting from people, and it'll be interesting to see if this translates to the show, but it feels like we're almost going back to the old days where it is that tribe, right? I mean, maybe it's not Apple that needs us as a community to survive, but it's Macworld that needs us as a community to survive, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we need something to sink our teeth into.
Very good. Dave Hamilton from the Mac Observer, macobserver.com, and of course, the Mac Geek Gab podcast. Thanks a lot for sharing your thoughts, and hope everyone checks out the live podcast at Macworld.
Thanks for having me on.